our freedom away.
Good evening, and thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Thanks for having me.
And why do we value human life so
Maybe
much?
because nature is full of species killing other species.
It's also full of species not killing other species. It's also unfair because nobody else wants to do anything else that lions do. You notice that convenient argument? We just want to do what the lions do when they eat antelope.
No, the argument is it might be quite natural to kill animals. Maybe you should do it in the most humane way possible and
Like
not
a humane
exaggerate.
Holocaust?
What?
Like a humane Holocaust?
But animals are eating animals. But it's part of our circle of life.
Known as the circle of torture and death.
When you see
Known as the circle of torture and death. When you see
a lion eating a zebra,
Okay.
it's and you're.
But I
you're
notice
saying,
you
okay,
have
this
clothes
is-
on. And I notice that you have a cell phone and you have a computer. It is unfair to pick one thing that lions do that you want to mimic when you don't want to mimic anything else they do. When lions walk up and greet each other, they sniff each other's ass. When I came in this room, you did not kneel down and sniff my ass. When I came in this room, you did not kneel down and sniff my ass. Okay? Lions sometimes kill their young when they're runts. Okay? If a human being killed their baby because they didn't want him, we arrest them and charge them with murder. Could you go to a courtroom and say, hey, but Your Honor, lions kill their babies, can't I? It's
But
an
it's their
unfair.
survivor.
It's an unfair comparison. You're not a lion.
When you see a lion eating a zebra.
You're not a lion.
When you see
Not a lion.
Yourofsky, good morning. One of the fears of the Ministry of Education is the way that you choose to provoke your agenda, I think. And in schools, they might think that it's inappropriate. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm here to speak on behalf of the most oppressed, most abused, most murdered group of beings that has ever existed, the animals. I speak against speciesism in the same way Nelson Mandela spoke against racism, in the same way Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Rosa Parks spoke against the evils of racism.
Like if let's take for example some farmer far away, maybe far away in time, in the past, grows an animal, and the animal has a wonderful life, grazing and enjoying itself. And when the time comes, he kills the animal in a nice way, the nicest possible. This is not rape. This is not Holocaust. This is the way of life.
Okay, so if I go and meet a woman at a bar, I buy her some drinks, I bring her some flowers, I take her back and put on some soft music, some Teddy Pendergrass, and we dance and we look in each other's eyes, and I slip her a date rape drug and rape her. Is that humane? Why not? She didn't feel a thing. See, because the act of rape is evil, okay? The act of murder is evil. You can't do it in a nice way. Okay, we have to stop thinking that there's a nice way. In fact, you know what the nice way to kill is? not to kill.
I
See, we
don't know.
can't throw this word humane out there when we're talking about rape, torture, and murder. You can't put the word humane next to it. Doesn't work like that. That's not how the world works.
What about the argument that families send their kids to school, families that eat meat send their kids to school. They don't want their kids coming back from school and say, hey, we're vegetarians or fruitarians from today.
What's wrong with somebody choosing to be compassionate?
Hey Mom, I learned in school today that I probably shouldn't be supporting the suffering and death of animals with my food choices. I think I'm going to go vegan.
What? No. Don't do that. Please, little Johnny, no.
Wait, why? Didn't you raise me to be nice?
Well, protein and I think, yeah, meat. Do that, okay? Yeah, right, yes, got it, Johnny? Don't listen to these anti-animal abuse people, they want to reduce suffering. But protein.
Okay, never mind, I'll pay for animal abuse. Thanks for the insight, Mom. You're a legend.
That's my boy, now go abuse some animals.
Wait, Mom, they told me I can get protein from plants. Can I just eat plants for protein so I don't have to harm animals?
Little Johnny, please, shut the fuck up, you little shit, and eat some bacon. We've been eating bacon for thousands of years, and, yeah, protein I guess, got it?
Okay, Mom, thank you so much for that reasonable explanation. I love you.
בסדר? אבל לא משנה, אפשר גם לספר את הסרט בלי להראות את התמונות. כי התמונות, תלמידים הרבה צפו ביוטיוב בסרט הזה. השוואה לשואה, אמירה שכל ילד שאוכל בשר הוא בעצם רוצח, הקשר בין הומניזם לטבעונות, זה דברים שלא הוכחו, אפילו בהיסטוריה הייתי אומרת שיש כמה הוכחות הפוכות בעניין הזה, אבל לא ניכנס לזה.
אבל למה לא לפתוח את ראשיהם של התלמידים לשמוע דברים אחרים?
מפני שזה לא זה, אבל לא ניכנס לזה.
אבל למה לא לפתוח את ראשיהם של התלמידים לשמוע דברים אחרים?
Alright, so every time I bring up like veganism, people always like, can't we just eat the animal after it dies of natural causes?
Actually, that is a loophole. Just so you know, I wasn't raised this way. I was a meat eater. Even when I found out about it, I was like everyone else. I didn't want to stop. Even though I was going to the slaughterhouses, I was crying and weeping. I was filming some of this stuff. I still was a stubborn addict. One night, I'm just breaking my brain. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a loophole. How can we do this? No slavery, no murder. Now, I'm always honest. So that is a loophole. You want to walk through the woods and find an old rabbit, an old squirrel, an old deer that died? I have no ethical objection. Now, I have a health concern, but as I said during the speech, I'm not the health police. You want to make yourself sick? I don't give a shit. If you want to kill yourself, I think you've got a right to kill yourself. It's your body.
Do you believe in God?
Yes, I do, absolutely. And we'll talk openly about God. I don't believe in organized religion, but I absolutely believe in God. I believe in the Garden of Vegan.
Ever since they were in the vegan, that's why they were in the vegan world. It wasn't that, it's because they're Garden of Vegan.
So I'm just pointing this out to everybody because people don't realize how much they're harming animals in their daily lives. So as I point out, the steak, the hamburger, the chicken sandwich that you're eating, the schnitzel, okay, these pieces of meat came off the bodies of living animals who didn't want to be murdered, who didn't want to suffer and die, who didn't want to be tormented. So once I pointed out to people, most people, sane people, logical people, make that next step to veganism.
I'm teaching people about compassion. And if 60 billion land animals end up cut into pieces, what is it if it's not murder? A party? A barbecue?
דיברתם איתו, דיברתם עם אנשי התנועה וניסיתם לנסות למצוא דרך כזאת? אנחנו כבר, זה לא פעם ראשונה שאנחנו משא ומתן בתהליך הזה. אני לא דיברתי איתו באופן אישי, אבל כל מה שהיום אתה יכול לראות את כל מה שאתה רוצה דרך האינטרנט, צפיתי בהרצאה שלו, ראיתי את הסרט, עוד נשים.
את צמחונית בעצמך.
זה לא קשור.
אבל למה לא לפתוח את ראשיהם של התלמידים לשמוע דברים אחרים? So Gary, you came here for 3 weeks to give endless lectures in schools. Now, you don't have the lectures. What are you going to do?
No, I do have lectures. I have lectures in colleges. I have lectures at auditoriums set up. And I'd like to know, if you want to ask her in Hebrew, what's the effect of lying to kids and hiding the truth to kids? They tell kids that it's okay to eat things that come out of a hen's ass. They tell kids it's okay to eat things that drip from animal udders. They tell kids it's okay to eat flesh and blood, and people are upset with me?
We'll try to translate.
Do you accept or do you understand or the people are calling you terrorist?
Sure. What else are they going to call me? You couldn't sleep at night if they called me a compassionate human being, because I'm calling them out. And as we go back in time and look at all the other people that we adore now, collectively, we all agree, Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King and all these people, Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez, you know, they were not loved during their time. They were despised. They wanted to make change, massive change. It's only later on that a society looks back at revolutionary activists and says, oh, man, he was great. He was just trying to bring peace and justice. I'm trying to bring compassion to this world. It's amazing that I'm called a terrorist. And if I'm called a terrorist for saving animals, what do we call people that kill animals and torture animals and eat animals? So how come when one human dies, it's a tragedy? But when billions of animals are killed with premeditation, it's a celebration. And what's really odd about this tragedy celebration dichotomy is that besides some kind of a self-defense situation, everyone knows that killing is evil and wrong. Because every time a bear kills a hiker, what do? Start singing Hakuna Matata? Praise the hiker for being part of the circle of life? Tell his family, well, he just wasn't fit enough to survive. Bullshit. We scream bloody murder, label that bear a homicidal maniac, and get a bunch of people with guns and go kill that bear for killing the hiker. Funny how the circle of life never comes into play when we're getting killed. And that's because the circle of life ain't nothing but an aggrandized, arbitrary, bullshit excuse to torment and kill somebody else with impunity. It's a cute story. It really is. Written, directed, and produced by us, the killers, the dictators, the victimizers. The victims in this psychotic scenario are not willing participants.
Dude. All right, today I'm honored to introduce the GOAT, Gary Yourofsky, to the show. Gary is one of the most influential and polarizing voices in the animal rights movement. Hailed as a prophet by some, condemned as a fanatic by others. He's never shied away from controversy, and neither will we today. But beyond the labels and noise, there's a deeper conversation that I'm hoping to have with Gary today. A conversation that neither the animal rights movement nor the animal rights movement today seem to be prepared to have. The fact that animals and human oppression are entangled, and dismantling one is necessary to dismantle the other. In order for us to be effective activists, the principles of anti-violence need to be applied to all sentient beings across the board, in my opinion. As I sit down with Gary, I find myself a little unusually in a strange position, caught between two camps, aligned with neither, and critical of both. On one side, human rights activists scream about justice while gnawing on the corpses of sentient beings. On the other, animal liberationists who ignore the system of government coercion, cultural conditioning, and moral decay that traps humans in cycles of violence in the first place. Today, we go where most won't, into the uncomfortable, the controversial, and brutally honest. Let's talk about some lighter topics first, though. Gary is out promoting Sasha Farms, an animal sanctuary. Anyone wanting to ask questions today can throw up a super chat. We'll be matching those donations and donating them to Sasha Farms today. So if anybody wants to get in here and ask Gary a question, he's willing to take juicy, spicy questions too today. He said he'll answer anything. I'm going to start off those donations by donating $100. So Gary, I first went vegan in the 90s, I think like you did too. I found it through the vegan straight edge movement, and specifically a band called Earth Crisis. How did you find veganism?
I remember Earth Crisis too back in the day. What year did you go vegan, Jeff?
94.
Okay, you got me by a couple of years. Look at you. You
Oh,
might
really?
be a goat after all.
Well, I had a lapse. We'll talk about that later. So you're ahead of me still.
Okay, so I went vegan in '96. I think most people heard. My stepdad was a clown in the circus, took me backstage. I saw some elephants being abused in chains. I saw bears and monkeys screaming in their cages, exhibiting neurotic behaviors. I ended up going to Thornapple Valley Pig Slaughterhouse in Eastern Market, Detroit. I looked into the eyes of the pigs who were always waiting to be called in on those slaughterhouse trucks. And it did hurt me so much back then, even though I was a hypocrite. I would look into their eyes and their eyes would scream back at me, "Why are you doing this to us?" And in my head, tears rolling down my face, still a meat eater, I would say, I don't know. And then finally in '95, the hometown hockey team, Detroit Red Wings, they have a horrible tradition of throwing dead octopuses on the ice. I called up a sports radio station. The guy called me out and asked me what I had for dinner the night before. One of my best traits, which you'll find out today because I'm going to answer everything openly and honestly how I feel. I actually lied and I said a salad. But to make up for that lie, at the end of the 2-minute call, I took the phone, the receiver in my hand. I said, "That's the shortest lived lie ever." And I never ate a piece of meat again. But it wasn't until '96 when I was in DC for the March for Animals. I was in the hotel lobby. A group of people from Texas came in the room and they asked me where they can get a good veggie burger. And I said, "Oh, the Hard Rock Cafe right down the street. It's got a great veggie burger." And they said, now these are quotes, "But Gary, that burger's not vegan." So what do you think happens to mother cows when they can't give milk anymore? Oh. And I bring this up because it's okay to be ignorant and uninformed. We all were at one time. But when somebody informs you about the truth, about injustice, about oppression and exploitation, somebody else being raped, tortured, and killed, the proper response is not to put up a fight and be defiant. It's to say, "Oh, I can't believe I missed it," and to make amends. And that's what I did that day forward, and that's what you did, Jeffrey, and that's what all the vegans have done. When we found out what was going on, we said, "Oh man, I can't believe I missed this. I can't make up for the past, but I can surely make the future a better place for the animals I share this planet with."
Oh boy, yeah. So how do you think activism has changed since back then?
I don't think it's changed much, to be honest with you. A lot of people approach me and say, "Gary, can you believe people brought up killing plants?" And I'd say, "Yeah, they were saying that shit in 1996 when I started too." "Gary, can you believe they said God says it's okay to eat animals?" Or "What about protein?" Or "Bacon?" Yeah, they were doing the same thing back then. So all the commentary from the meat, dairy, and egg eaters, always the same. And the activism is just about the same. Actually, I could point out there's more education-based activism happening today than when I started. Pretty much back in the day, if we took the pie chart, it was probably only 2 to 5% education-based. I think it's grown dramatically to a good spot, probably around the 75% mark, which is where it needs to be, maybe even a little more. And that's where it's at. I mean, Anonymous for the Voiceless. I'm in Cologne right now in Germany. Came down here to join the Cube of Truth. That is some wonderful street-based, education-based activism. And the funny thing is, I stopped doing street stuff in the year 2000. That's how ancient I am. It's been 25 years. I didn't feel that I could be productive on the street anymore. I wasn't getting the right results. So I took my street protests to the classroom, where I got all my results. But AV took my classroom protest to the streets. They condensed my speech into 3 or 4 minutes, covered some points. Do you think that animals are being respected while we eat them? Put yourself in the victim's position, things that I was always driving home, and they're doing wonderful work. So I really like what AV is doing. I love the education-based activism. That's where it's at. We have to teach people what's going on. We have to explain what's going on because people have been programmed and brainwashed, and everyone's walking around with blinders on because every angle from our society, our moms, our dads, media, religion, government, everybody tells us animals don't count, animals don't matter. Animals were put on this earth for us to eat, to wear, to torture and experiment, to be here for entertainment. So we have to deprogram and unbrainwash people. And I would ask vegans out there who aren't being active, it's wonderful to be vegan. I'm not going to take that away. Please speak up, though. Please, everyone has to do their part. We can't rely on a couple of people to reach the masses. And I'm talking billions of people need to hear this message. Don't just look to a few people to do it. Everybody needs to do their part. And if we all did our part, we'd get to the finish line a lot sooner.
Yeah, without vegans around, no one would know they're doing something wrong.
That's true.
I remember, I used to do PETA tables at the high schools in my community and stuff back in the day. And people were kind of a lot more like curious and interested, especially with the vegan straight edge kids, because we were a bunch of teenagers and we decided not to do drugs and not to eat animals and not to smoke cigarettes, take alcohol, and we were very much about liberation for all sentient beings. And so I don't want to sound like too much of a boomer, but I feel like back in the day, before the internet was around, there was a lot more like grassroots activism. There was we enforced our principles instead of just kind of talking about them. This is what got us labeled terrorists back in the 90s. I had friends that were on America's Most Wanted because they because we were engaging in activities like sabotaging slaughterhouses and logging machinery, burning down fur farms, harassing businesses until they stopped selling fur, destroying government fences, keeping wild animals out of their natural habitats. We ignored the consequences of these actions because we knew it was the right thing to do. For example, I know these guys up in Northern California that are these awesome activists, and they're bringing awareness to the Thule elk that are dying out in Northern California because of all the cattle grazing. But their belief and fear in government keeps them from helping these animals that are dying right in front of their faces. They're depending on this idea that voting will fix the problems that humanity has not respecting animals. Do you think voting is going to save animals, or do you believe direct action, boots on the ground with bolt cutters will make a difference?
Well, direct action is probably the second best form of activism, right behind education-based activism. I haven't voted in more than 25 years. I don't think voting does anything. To paraphrase George Carlin, if voting did anything, they wouldn't allow it. I think it's nonsense too when people come out for one time a year, once every other year, once every 4 years, and then they think that it's being active, it's being inactive. And especially if we rely on politicians to do what's right. Now, come on, everybody. And I don't care which side I talk to, left or right. Everybody agrees that politicians are liars, but all of a sudden everybody wants to put their faith in a politician to make the world a compassionate place. Not going to happen that way. It falls on the activists and it falls on society. So when the activists convert the masses and the masses don't want to take part in injustice, then the corporations will change. It's supply and demand. Corporations work on money, and you can only make it unprofitable when you stop buying and supporting the products that they're producing. So that's where it's at for sure. And by the way, I remember those good old days too. Direct action, 97. I broke into a mink farm and freed the mink. Just the consequences are severe. You mentioned a lot of people now are afraid. I will say this, the government definitely comes down much harder these days on people taking part in direct action. I got a good friend, Marie Mason, who is now Marius Mason, in prison, 22 years in prison for an ELF action, burning down an animal research laboratory at Michigan State University. She's going to be in her 70s when she gets out. For crying out loud, nobody was harmed in the process. Rapists don't get 22 years in prison. Sometimes murderers don't even get 22 years in prison, but they labeled her a terrorist, and she has that label, and now she's doing 22.
That's wild, because back in the day, they used to consider it civil disobedience, and usually didn't get 22 years for civil disobedience.
Not anymore. Yeah, they come down hard. So effective for sure, but the consequences could be drastic if you get caught. Be careful. I heard some activists in France recently too just went and did some great actions. They were chaining themselves inside of slaughterhouses. I always loved action like that. Really, it's putting your freedom on the line, which is what I used to do, which is what we all have done before, or something that we all should do. I've always been willing to give my freedom and my life for the animals. That's how much I respect them, and that's how much I respect all the ALF and ELF activists out there putting their lives on the line too.
So you took a pretty big chunk of time off. Do you find that activist burnout is like kind of like gonna happen no matter what when you're being an activist in a system that's set up to stop you from being successful? Like, how do you combat that, and how do you keep going every day?
It was tough. You know, I couldn't stop. I was running a marathon. I was sprinting that marathon. I wasn't walking slowly. So if you're in the trenches like I am, and I wasn't the only person in the trenches, but if you're in the trenches, I think the stress is going to catch up with you like it did to me. And it wasn't just society dealing with all the nonsense that I hear from just about every meat, dairy, and egg eater, and from the media. But it's also the movement. In fact, I posted a video today about infighting and how it needs to stop. I put this on my Instagram page. There was so much infighting, and I am guilty as hell because I took part in it. I was the king infighter. I don't have many regrets, but one regret I do have, and I thought about it during those 10 years while I was taking a break. I wish I can take back every nasty thing I said to the other activists out there. Just because I had tactical differences didn't mean I had to attack anybody. I should have just explained my tactical differences, which I'm going to try to do from here on out, what I think is the best avenue. And you can take it or you can leave it, but I don't want to fight anymore, honestly. I'm done with it. But all that infighting really got to me too. It stressed me out beyond belief. And Jeffrey, if you can help me de-stress, I would love to hear about it because I don't really know how, but I did have to step back from it all. And I was able to de-stress a lot, but my insomnia is still around. I only slept for 2 hours a night for around 20 some odd years. I've picked it up to about 4, maybe 5 hours a night if I'm lucky. And sleep is very important, but it's hard to think about yourself when you're involved in the most altruistic movement on this planet, which is helping the animals. In fact, helping animals that you don't even know, that you're never even going to meet. It's tough. It's tough to figure out how to take care of yourself. In fact, a lot of people label me narcissistic or arrogant over the years. Do you know that in the 90s when I started, and I was really radical back then, the first time I ever thought about myself was 1999, 2 years after I freed those mink from the Ebert's Fur Farm in Blenheim, Ontario. It was when they shut the cage to my cell. And when they slammed it shut and I was given a 6-month sentence, for the first time I said, oh shit, what have I done? Where the hell am I at? I never thought about myself. It was always the animals first. So I do want people to always keep the animals first, but take some care of yourself along the way. I wish I could have done a better job along the way of providing for my needs. I'm doing deep breathing these days, 1-2 hours a day. It sounds silly, but it really relaxes me and it really helps. I was never good at yoga though. That Shavasana part always ticked me off instead of help me because I couldn't make my brain stop. And I'd look around the room and like everyone's meditating but me. What is going on? But I don't try something like that to de-stress, decompress. I always like going to Sasha Farm Animal Sanctuary. That was a good place to de-stress and see animals in their natural state and pet the animals and play with them. And I'll say this too, you know, most vegans never go visit sanctuaries and visit the animals that they're protecting and saving. Get to your local sanctuary, volunteer. So that always helped me out as well. But overall, I got to tell you, I don't have great advice about de-stressing. Maybe you can help me, or maybe you can help all the listeners out there too.
It's weird. It's almost like telling the truth doesn't make you friends.
Yeah. Well, of course, actually telling the truth makes you enemies. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
In our society, we reward the liar, the politician. Yep. We reward mom and dad when they tell kids hamburgers come from hamburger patches. Animals don't count. They don't matter. Oh, they like giving milk. Oh, they like giving their lives for us. But society condemns the truth-telling vegan. The truth tellers get in trouble. And it's not just animal rights people. Go back in time to the human rights people. We forget that. And I said it during, I think, one of those pieces you showed. Cesar Chavez, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, they were not loved in their time. They were hated for telling the truth, for calling out people, for being racist, for mistreating other human beings. So, yeah, this society is really bizarre. You get in trouble. In fact, you know, the United Kingdom banned me around 20 years ago, and I've been invited to go to the veg camp out next year, and I want to go because they're going to make a $10,000 donation to Sasha Farm. But they banned me. And what did they ban me for? I'm sorry, Gary, if you want to come here and tell people not to kill cows and pigs and chickens, don't come through our borders. But I'll tell you what, does that mean if I didn't tell people to do that? If I traveled the world and said, hey, I got a better way to kill cows and pigs, I got a better way to cook their flesh, they would say, oh, come on in, tell us about it. What a bizarro world that we live in. It's backwards.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to be a professional activist a couple times in my life, and it was really hard dealing with, like you said, all the trolls, all the people that support you but don't think you're doing things right. You know, I remember probably the worst mental health I ever had was during the time of being an activist, just being overwhelmed. And I was you know, at the helm of a pretty large platform for a while, and just dealing with keeping that going, it freaked me out. And so
you know what melted my brain, Jeffrey, a lot?
Yeah.
Is now, good news is the majority of my lectures, vast majority, were well received. I averaged 200 talks a year. I only had about 15 or 20 that turned into a Jerry Springer show. Yeah. I'm talking 180, 185 talks without a divisive comment. I'm not saying they all went vegan, but not a divisive comment. But those 15 to 20 built up on me, especially when I would do multiple talks in one day. First class would say, oh man, you remind me of Jesus, the second coming. You're like Dr. Martin Luther King of the animal rights movement. I'm not saying this to brag. I want to make a point. And then the next class would say, man, you're like Hitler. You're like the devil. Look at you. I'm like, how could I be Jesus and the devil in the same day? Yeah. So it made my brain melt. I didn't understand how I could give the same speech. One class loved it. Half the students went vegan. The next class hated me and screamed and yelled at me. But I did realize over the years that it wasn't me. So just know, Jeffrey, it was never you. It was never any other vegan out there. It's always on the listener. It's whether they choose to receive the message that day, whether they're willing and open and ready to receive it. Because unless everybody responded that way, which they did, and told me that I was horrible, then it would have been me. But because the vast majority accepted the message and did something with it, I'm like, no, it's not me anymore. It's you guys. You never gave me a chance today. You came in with preconceived notions. So don't think, too, that there's a gimmick or there's a trick to try to get somebody to understand it. I wish there were. I've tried to fight it. It's not there. It just depends on whether somebody's ready to receive the message.
It was pretty funny. Last month, me and my partner worked a pita table at a Morrissey concert, and we were just blown away at how open that whole crowd is to veganism. It was like very strange.
That's a Morrissey crowd for you. I mean, Morrissey talks about it all the time. In fact, somebody sent me something the other day, a picture. He showed a part of my speech or a slaughterhouse video I used to use in my speech during one of his shows. I'm like, oh, how cool is that? Yeah, so Morrissey's always out there preaching the good word. Love that stuff. Yeah.
So we got one super chat. Does Gary have any plans coming to New York City?
You know what? I don't have any plans set in stone right now, except I'm going to be hitting the online world. Now, I know I'm late to the game. I'm ancient. I'm about to be 55. When I started my activism, like you, Jeffrey, there was no internet. Literally, it didn't exist. When
We
I
had
was
to mail
growing
each
up.
other to meet other vegans.
Yeah, and there wasn't, and there were no cell phones when I grew up either. So I'm gonna be getting online for sure. I have a wonderful activist from Spain. Her name is Carmen. She's gonna be doing my social media work. We're gonna be getting online the next few months and making a ton of videos. We're gonna record everything I say, do it in Spanish because she speaks Spanish as well. We're gonna be doing weight training stuff. She's in the gym. I'm in the gym all the time. We're gonna be doing diet stuff. We're gonna be trying to get activists or vegans to become better activists or to become active. Try to reach out to the meat eating community as well. I'm going to be doing that for sure. Beyond that, I don't know what else the universe has in store for me, but I am listening. That's the reason I'm out here in Germany. Quick story, when I was in my coffin in Michigan for the last 10 years, near the end of these 10 years, I was debating going to Frankfurt to visit Nir Rosenfeld, who has 7 vegan restaurants, who calls himself a Gary Vegan, says I created him. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, Nir, I'm thinking of coming out to Frankfurt. Don't get too excited. Haven't left my house in 10 years. He's like, oh, my God. I'm like, calm down. So then Paul Bashir from Anonymous for the Voiceless calls me up, good friend of mine. Haven't talked in years, though. And I said, so what do you got up? He says, I'm going to be in Cologne in July doing the Cube of Truth. I said, get out of here. Of all the gin joints in all the world, I'm thinking of going to Frankfurt. You're going to be in Cologne. So I listened to the universe and I got out of my coffin and I jumped on a plane and I'm out here and I'm loving it. I'm loving being alive again, being active again, talking to you, doing all the podcasts. And I'm looking forward to getting active online. So New York City, I don't know, nothing in the near future, I don't think. But who knows? Who knows where the world's going to take me?
That's awesome. So yeah. I was obviously a big vegan activist in the late 90s, mid to late 90s. And I ended up moving to Hollywood, and they kind of, their term, most straight edge people are only straight edge till they're 21. And that unfortunately happened to me. I moved to Hollywood and got caught up. I was in a band and got caught up in the whole drugs, girls, excess, alcohol thing, and lost track of my morals. I stayed vegan for a long time, but ended up falling into carnism. Just completely distracted with Hollywood, and but I always had vegan guilt, and I always had activist guilt because I knew I should have been doing something better. The band I was in was just kind of garbage, and it wasn't really changing the world or anything. So I got out of the music industry and got into basically the truth movement, pushing human liberation stuff. And then that kind of led me back into veganism, because I was a big advocate of the non-aggression principle with humans. Humans shouldn't be aggressing on other humans. And I had a friend one day who was vegan who called me out. He was just like, this whole non-aggression principle thing, it goes to animals too. And obviously I knew that. And that was really what I needed to get me back in the right direction, because I was paleo for a while. Like, I went full retard. Wow. And, yeah. And then so I came back. And so I have an interesting perspective, having been vegan, raised vegetarian, been vegan a long amount of time. And so I've done all that stuff. And it's let me see where my notes are.
I got a funny, quick, straight edge story while you're looking at your notes.
Go ahead.
This is my life story. I started getting high when I was 12. No joke, Steve Selleck brought me in his basement, said he had some weed, loved it, got high from the age of 12 to 17 until one day, I think I was at Hank Wyman's mother's and father's cabin, somewhere cottage, and I was on the second floor looking down at 5 or 6 friends who looked completely insane getting high. And I said, is that how I look when I'm high?
Yeah.
And then I went straight edge from 17 to 31. Then I kind of hit a little depression patch with life and activism, didn't know what was going on. My friend Tiffany says, oh, you need to smoke a joint and relax. I'm like, I don't know, I haven't done it forever. Got high, and then I've been high actually every day until I got to Germany. And I want to give a big shout out to Carmen, who called me out and said, man, your body's supposed to be a temple. What are you doing? Treat it like a temple. So I'm straight edge again, man. And I'm going frugivore. I've gone frugivore for the last 10 days. 30 bananas a day. Hold up. I'm going to try to. You see the banana?
Yeah.
I've gone banana.
It's probably not very easy in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a guy named Ron Paul. I don't know if you remember. He ran for president in 2008 and 2012. He got me really into. Oh, he convinced me to be an anarchist eventually, and then eventually I found something called natural law, and from natural law, it brought the morals into the okay. Let's be against government, but. That's what I was into for a long time, just being against government and blaming everyone else for all the problems in the world. The natural law kind of, it's a moral, basically explains that moral truth applies to all sentient beings equally. And one of the most popular influencers in the natural law movement, this guy named Mark Passio, is vegan. He soft promotes veganism, though, because the opinion that we need to focus on fixing humanity and that animals naturally will come after. Also, the great philosopher Leo Tolstoy once said, as long as there are slaughterhouses, there will always be battlefields. What's your response to Mark and Leo?
Well, first of all, I understand human oppression. Let me clear the air with everybody. My position is Pythagoras was trying to put women on an equal status with men 2,600 years ago. He was pushing human rights. But Pythagoras also said, as long as people consume death and torture, we will never know peace and love. So he also spoke out that the root of hatred is speciesism. So I have empirical evidence that the way humans are going about bringing peace to this planet doesn't work. You've been trying to do it through human rights issues for thousands of years, and all we do is have human rights problems around the planet. Gays in Uganda being imprisoned and killed, same thing in Russia. Look at the Congo, look at the Sudan, look at the Middle East. Look at Democrats and Republicans in America, for crying out loud. There's nothing but wars going on. Women don't have their equal status yet. Trans people getting violated all the time. Gay people getting violated all the time. I say, let's try animals first. And then I think human rights will fall into play and fall into the spot where it's needed. So let me clarify. George Carlin is one of my heroes, everybody. He had a skit where he said, I'm tired of all the children getting all this attention. What about the children? Save the children, help the children, feed the children. You know what I say? Fuck the children. You don't really think Carlin meant that? He was being sarcastic. I know people look at me as a militant activist, but I look at myself as a comedian. I got Larry David and Mel Brooks and George Carlin flowing through my veins. So when I said fuck human rights, and I've said this a lot, I'm saying it in the same vein as Carlin saying fuck children. I'm saying we'll get to the humans after. I'm tired of humans being placed on a pedestal and humans being viewed as more important. Especially when you look at the fact that animals are being murdered by the trillions when you count the fish. Trillions every year. This is where the injustice takes place, and it's the first form of hatred human beings are taught. Before any white person is taught to hate and distrust a black person, they're taught speciesism. The cow, the pig, the chicken doesn't matter. Before any straight person is taught to hate a gay person, they are taught to hate and oppress and exploit the animal. So I say attack hatred at its root. speciesism, and then racism, sexism, heterosexism, classism, and all the other isms will fall by the wayside. So that's my whole position. I just want to do animals first, humans last, and I just flip the script. And that script, by the way, again, it's not working. It doesn't work. Thousands of years, we still have to explain to men why women deserve to be put on an equal plane with men. 2,600. I don't even understand the argument. How could there be an argument? Why don't straight people allow gay people to get married all over this planet? Who cares? They want to get married. They love each other. Leave them alone. But I'm telling you, people are filled up with hatred from speciesism, filled up with the violence and torture and the death of the animals that they're consuming, and it clouds people's thoughts, clouds their vision. I say animals first, humans last.
So if the carnist problem, the problem with us feeling superior to animals is in our brains, how are we going to fix that if we're ignoring humans?
Everything I just said, I'm just going to repeat everything I said. If we think that we're so superior, it's because of how we view the weakest beings on this planet. If you can teach somebody to be kind to a spider, a worm, a chicken, a mouse, how could they look to their fellow human who, let's face it, most humans look and act differently than other humans. But if you can teach them that the chicken, the spider, the mouse, and the worm have value and their lives mean something, especially from their point of view, I just don't see how racism, sexism, heterosexism continue to thrive. But it thrives right now because, again, we're letting speciesism cloud everybody's brain. We're letting people think that humans should be put on a pedestal. I hate to be the bearer of harsh truth. People need to hear this message too. If humans were wiped off the face of the planet, everything gets better. The air gets cleaner, the water gets cleaner, the forests aren't destroyed, the animals aren't murdered. The animals aren't being murdered en masse. They're not being raped and tortured. So why do people think human life is so special? After what I just explained, it sounds to me like human life is not special and not important. Because if you remove the bees or the ants from the planet, the whole ecosystem collapses. We have to realize that we're not fitting in right now. Now, that doesn't mean we can't fit in eventually, or that maybe once we did fit in. I don't know the answer to that, Jeff, but I know right now we don't fit in. And we don't fit in because of what we're doing to the animal kingdom and the earth right now. And the number one destruction of the earth is animal agriculture. Everything seems to be tied in to how we treat cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys and fish, just destroying everything around us, acting like parasites. And it's unbecoming. It's unbecoming of a species who claims to know right from wrong. That's something else I'm about to start challenging too. We've heard this too from animal rights philosophers, legends, Peter Singer and Tom Regan, Steve Best. Everybody always claims that humans are moral agents. You got to be kidding me. Where?
Nope.
Since when? We seem to be immoral agents. I don't know if we're capable of
Satanists.
Yeah, I mean, we might be capable, which I also doubt, but you know who's a moral agent? And I don't like this from the animal rights community because we keep saying animals aren't moral agents. That's nonsense to me, especially when we say animals are sentient beings. That's one of our main lines. If you're a sentient being, that means you're cognizant, you're aware, you have a brain that functions, you got eyes that allow you to see, ears that allow you to hear. But if we say that animals aren't moral agents, we're demeaning them. And again, we're placing humans on a higher pedestal. The herbivore animals, zebras, antelope, bunny rabbits, squirrels, giraffes, sloths, capybaras, rhinos, hippos, these beings have achieved morality. They're moral agents. They've decided to live in complete peace and not harm anybody else. I admire the herbivore animals the most on this planet because they are the moral agents. I don't see humans as being moral agents. Maybe we could be, but we certainly aren't, and we haven't been. Yeah. And then there's a comment too that you always hear. As soon as we show people animal slaughterhouses, or we say, what if you put a human in there? They'll say, oh, but they're not human. Well, in order for that comment to even work, it would mean that if you pointed out a human injustice to another human, then humans would stop with that injustice. Again, why did it take 400 years to convince white people in America not to own and rape and murder black people with impunity? So that statement also doesn't even work anymore. Nothing we say about humans makes any sense to me, but I've spent 29 some odd years, you've spent dozens of years, and everybody spends time trying to enlighten people. And all it takes, everybody out there who's not vegan, just calm down, please listen. You can't know everything. If you did, you'd be some kind of a god. You can't possibly know everything. And sometimes you got to look in the mirror and apologize and understand, man, I did something wrong. I didn't know. Make amends, don't fight. And the more I think about it too, when I did have confrontations in the classroom, it's because after my 60 or 70-minute speech, I crumbled everybody's foundations. And if you try to stand on a crumbled foundation, it's not going to work. You start saying stupid things. God says it's okay. But they're just animals. They don't think. They don't feel. They're not aware. They don't feel pain. The people that listened and changed during my lectures, and at least 50% of every class, almost 50%, professors told me minimum 15 to 20, most of the time 50% conversion rate. They had crumbled foundations too. But instead of trying to stand on it, they rebuilt, started anew. That's when the questions were, okay, Gary, I understand. I'm going to change. Can you help me out, though? What do I eat for breakfast tomorrow? Where do I get some vegan shoes? Yeah, those are the questions I want to hear, because that's the tough thing at the beginning. What do I eat? Where do I shop? And all this stuff. But those crumbled foundation people, man, they can be torturous at times, and they led to the stress, and they lead to everybody else's stress. And family and friends can be quite rough too, man. Very rough on us, and I don't know why. I've never converted, by the way, one friend or family member. They say I've converted a couple 100,000 worldwide. I don't know, maybe millions, they say, if you take into account the people I converted, Vegan Gains and Paul Bashir, Joey Carbstrong, people that I've influenced like Raffaella. Maybe it's definitely in the millions, but never had a friend or a family member listen to me. They never want to listen.
Yeah.
I'm sure most vegans go through that too.
Yep. So this intersectionality thing is definitely fake moral relativist garbage, in my opinion. They're using like massive appeals to tradition fallacies, cherry picking indigenous diets and economic circumstances as justification for keeping violent traditions alive, effectively holding human preference over moral principle. How much do you think intersectionality is to blame for the slow adoption of the vegan movement's having?
Well, listen, it's not helping the victims. And again, I don't want to start attacking people, but the animal rights movement is for animals. Human rights movements are for humans. There's no need to mix each other. You don't do animal rights. You don't put out animal rights information when you're doing a gay pride march. Don't bring the gay issues to the Cube of Truth in Cologne or to the Animal Rights March. So it's definitely not helping the victims at all. And this making excuses for people's culture, what do you mean? Then everybody would have an excuse to torment and murder animals. Yeah. There's no excuse to cut somebody else's head off. There's no excuse to eat somebody else's flesh. I don't care where you live on this planet. And this planet, for the record, belonged to the animals before we stole it from them and stole all the land from them, as humans continuously fight over, no, it's my land, no, it's their land. No, it's the animals' land. But I do have a utopian view buried deep inside me. I don't know why. I still have a little ounce of faith. Why can't we all just live together? The animals too, in peace. Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be ours, mine? Why can't it be ours? It doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, intersectionality, they attacked me a lot over the years, and by the way, they're probably going to attack me again even after this. I'll be your punching bag. go ahead. Honestly, I don't care anymore. Throw the insults, throw the slurs my way. I'll bear the brunt of it all. I've tried to bear the brunt of the pain for the animals, and it's done me in. It took me out of the game for 10 years. But I'm not attacking anymore. I'm just talking about what the animals go through. I wish, and this is what I want to point out to anyone else who wants to infight, anybody who wants to bring human rights issues to the animal rights march. Why can't we just focus on the electroejaculation that is performed on male animals in the meat, dairy, and egg industries and in the vivisection industries as we steal their sperm? Electroejaculation, for crying out loud, should be talked about, not whether Gary wants to put animals before humans. And then we take that sperm and then we shove it inside a female animal so we can impregnate them, and then we can steal their babies and then kill those babies. Humans aren't just animal killers. The more I think about it, Jeffrey, we're baby animal killers. Chickens are killed off at 6 weeks. What kind of a sane, rational, moral being would kill a baby animal? Pigs are killed off at 6 months. Why do we have to bring human rights stuff, or why do we have to attack Gary or anyone else who wants to focus on those issues while I'm at an animal rights march, while I'm talking about animals? Don't force me to talk about other issues when I signed up to be an animal rights activist. And I want to clear the air. I am not saying you can't support your human rights causes. Just do it at the human rights events.
It's funny because that movement I was telling you as a part of the natural law movement. I'm the psycho vegan who doesn't shut up about veganism, but it's like, but over here I feel like I'm in the lower percentile of the people who, I don't know, I just feel like for me, justifying any form of violence and suffering kind of fractures the principles of a liberation movement that really should just simply be rooted against all violence. To all animals and humans, which are animals. To me, the political spectrum isn't really right or left. It's who allows violence and who doesn't. I heard you say once that the intersectionals caused you to kind of abandon the human issue.
They did.
Doesn't that kind of make them win if we compromise our principles because some other activists shortcomings?
Well, let me clarify. They didn't cause me to abandon my human rights beliefs. I still believe in human justice. People, please don't think that I'm out there being a racist or a sexist or heterosexist. I'm not. Humans made me this way. 29 years in the trenches, 29 years of vegan. It's humans that keep turning away from animals and keep claiming that they understand compassion and peace and morality. I did not start out this way wanting to put humans last. In 1992, 4 years before I became vegan, I put out an anti-racist rap. Yes, I wanted to be a rapper. Go online, punch in my name, punch up the Declaration of Misrepresentation. So for everybody attacking me too, I was condemning racism before you were even born. If you look at my speeches, I actually used examples of racism, sexism, and heterosexism. During one of my speeches, or multiple ones during the year of, I want to say 2006 and 7, I was actually using the genocide that was going on in Darfur, spending 5 minutes during the speech discussing the injustices that were going on and making comparisons. I wanted people to be aware of what was going on in Darfur as well. So it just became apparent over the years that humans are walking around demanding life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and at the same time denying life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to every animal on this planet. That's hypocritical, and I have a tough time these days reconciling how I can support human beings completely when they're hypocrites, when they don't dish out what they demand to receive. And it's troubling, especially when they're not just ignoring the issue. That's one thing, to ignore an issue. They're actively taking part in the oppression, the exploitation, the rape of female animals. They're supporting a slaughterhouse where, once again, I'll make the example, you take the cows and the pigs out, put humans in, everybody screams injustice. You put the cows back in, everybody screams, hey, it's a party, let's have a celebration, let's have a barbecue. These are houses of slaughter that they're supporting. So I don't know, I just don't understand deep down why we want to prop humans up so highly and why we don't want to focus on the real victims of this planet, or the most superfluous victims on this planet, which are the animals. Again, I understand human rights. And I'm still going to maintain, you teach somebody to be nice to animals, you'll have your human rights quicker than the way you're going about it now. And I don't think it's possible because the paradigm is flawed. The system is broken. You've been trying for how many more thousands of years do you want to try something that doesn't work? They should have abandoned this way a long time ago. And there are plenty of people throughout history that have embraced veganism too, and start with Pythagoras, who was actually putting, again, humans on an equal status with other humans. He was preaching human rights too. He got it. But nobody wants to follow Pythagoras's lead. I do. The vegans do. The vegans are the magnanimous ones, the most magnanimous on this planet, the ones exhibiting pure altruism without contradiction. That's another thing too. A lot of human rights people, want to condemn this, and rightfully so, condemn what's going on to gay people. And then they want to put a halo over their head. But they're taking part in injustice. You don't get the halo if you're taking part in injustice. And keep in mind, my words don't promote human injustices. I get it. I'm not violating anybody. I'm not causing any pain to any human being. I don't know why people are attacking me. I'm just pointing out that I think humans are hypocrites. And I'd like to fix it, though. That's why I've always done all my speeches, why I'm now doing all the podcasts. I'm trying to reach people and explain, hey, listen, let me put your ethics. Let me allow your lifestyle to align with your ethical beliefs, with what your conscience is telling you, but what your practices are not showing. Your daily practices show horrible behavior. It condones horrible behavior.
So you've been suggesting lately that we should eliminate carnivorous animals to stop the suffering, and that's ruffled a bunch of feathers in the vegan movement. Is there going to be a tour of Africa with Gary Yourofsky eradicating big cats in the future?
All right. Let me explain this too. Everybody likes to take my comments out of whack. Here, let me explain it this way. A lot of people have dogs. I had dogs in my life, wonderful companions. Whenever Rex or Doyle went after a squirrel or a bunny rabbit, I screamed at them. No, stop that. Ran after them. Prevented them from killing the bunny rabbit. I'm pretty sure everybody with a dog does the same thing. So how come it's okay to stop our dogs from going after bunny rabbits and squirrels, but not okay to stop a lion from killing a zebra? My question is, how come everybody hates zebras so much? And everybody says that zebras deserve to be dinner for the lions. Let's also think about this. If a wolf or a mountain lion or a coyote, you're walking through the woods with your dog and they attacked your dog, you just jump back and go, well, circle of life. That's the way it is. No, you're jumping on that animal to stop. And it's not fair to say, oh, because he's my dog. Well, wait a second. I thought as vegans, we were supposed to consider all animals part of our family. I consider the zebras part of my family. I consider the lions part of my family too. But if somebody's attacking somebody else, I don't want it to continue. I have 2 bird baths in my backyard. I love the birds. I change the water sometimes 7, 8 times a day. When I see them out there looking for worms, I run outside and scare them away. Not here, not now. Nobody's killing in my backyard. There's plenty of other food sources. Stop looking for the worms and killing. I'm always trying to stop and prevent harm. When I made the statement, I would shoot a lion if he was attacking a zebra. Okay, it's in theory. I'm not in the jungles of Tanzania. And this is not new, by the way. For people that say, I've been following you for so long, that part of the speech you were showing when I was in the classroom during the opening at Oakland Community College, in 2014, the first 5 minutes was about why carnivore animals are committing wrong. So this goes back 11 years, but I always told the classes when I got the question during Q&A, what about lions eating zebras? I said, listen, I don't speak lion anyways. My concern is what humans are doing, my species. But the joke was, when humans stop killing and torturing all animals, I'll fly to the jungles of Tanzania and try to convince lions not to eat zebras. Right now, not my concern. Everybody should know I'm not planning a trip to Africa or Asia. I'm not loading up my guns and
You're
getting
not going
my
to kill
bow
all
and
the kitty
arrow.
cats in the USA?
I'm not going to do that stuff. But if I were there, I would do whatever I could to stop it, because I know the zebra runs away, tries to run away. I know the herbivore animals, again, think about this too. When people say that carnivores have a right to do this, why are they condemning herbivores so much? The only beings on this planet to achieve peace, and they always get the short end of the stick. Right? The cows in the meat industry. All the animals, just about all the animals we murder are herbivore animals. Why do people hate herbivores so much and elevate carnivores? Carnivores are the ones that need to change. I will say this too, though, Jeffrey, and you've probably seen this. If not, go online and look up Kruger National Park, buffaloes and lions. What's going to happen is not Gary and vegan gains going to Tanzania to stop the murder. The herbivores will have to rise up on their own. They're going to have to fight back. And if you look at the Kruger video, a group of lions come in, they take down a young buffalo, and the small herd of buffalo run away. And when I was watching this, I'm like, no, what are you doing? I didn't know. Nobody knew. They went and got the cavalry. They come back with 500, 800 buffalo. They surround the lions, and they attack the lions and save their young. That's what's going to happen. The zebras will have to fight back to the lions. The antelope and everyone else is going to have to fight back, or other herbivores will have to fight on their behalf. You can also look up the hippo saving an impala. I used to show an impala. I used to show this during Q&A. There's a hippo sitting in a river. Alligator comes along, grabs an impala. The hippo is a vegan. Like us, he's probably sitting there going, you know what? I'm just trying to relax, and all you guys do is come by and kill somebody without relaxing. Well, the hippo goes after the alligator. Of course, the alligator runs away from the hippo, the baddest creature on the planet. Mm-hmm. And the hippo tries to save the impala. So the herbivores will have to rise up. And again, my focus, Vegan Gains' focus, we are focused on what humans are doing to animals. We're discussing theory. We're just having a discussion. There's no need to take things out of whack. Oh, Gary wants to go shoot all the lions on this planet. The lions, though, do have to use that cognitive ability that I know they have and stop. And there was a famous lion. You should look this up, too. Tyke. Anybody know about Tyke, the famous vegetarian lion? He lived in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s. He refused to eat flesh, and he lived a long, healthy life. They have to have it. No, I know their bodies are capable. Don't tell me I did it during a portion of my speech. Carnivore bodies and herbivore bodies, but they don't need it either. We always maintain that all nutrients come from the earth, come from plant life. Therefore, the lions could be getting it from the original source too, just like all the human beings. But the lions, like most humans, are lazy and they want to eat somebody else's flesh who ate from the earth. Just go to the direct source.
Okay.
But listen, by the way, Jet, you got to appreciate the openness and the honesty. I'm willing to answer anything. And the professors, all of them, always said one thing to me. They said, Gary, we have never met anybody so open and willing to answer every question, how they feel. You really are not a politician. And that was probably the best compliment anybody could tell me. You are not a politician. And I prided myself in being not a politician. So everybody out there who disagrees with some things I say, can you appreciate the honesty? These are my opinions, not your opinions. Don't tell me to have your opinions when the question is asked to me. This is how I feel. And the good news is, you don't have to agree with me all the time, but you guys know I'm fighting for animal liberation. You can't agree with me on that. And you can ignore the few other things. Well, I don't like when Gary says this, and I don't like his position on that. we're not going to agree on everything. There's too many issues: pro-life, pro-choice, pro-gun, anti-gun, pro-immigration, pro-legal immigration, anti-immigration, anti-illegal immigration. There's tons of issues out there. We can't possibly agree on everything. But we can all agree that animals don't deserve to be mistreated, exploited, raped, tortured, killed, have their heads chopped off, and there shouldn't be houses of slaughter all over this planet built just for them to cut them up into pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a lot of our society has kind of taught us to react very violently to people that have slight differences of opinion. I've never been approached by so many people over someone I was interviewing in my life, and people from all over the spectrum, very angry people too. And it was very shocking because I feel like society's taught us that we can control people, and it's like people have this thing where they get so mad because they want to change you, but we're all, that's not what this is all about. It's about, like, you're allowed to do whatever you want. You're allowed to do your activism in any way you want. It's probably, you're very influential, so I see why people get so upset. But I don't think like what we were saying, like saying you're going to go off and eradicate all the big cats. It's a ridiculous statement. And like when Richard Vegan Gains talks about, like fencing up all the lions, like we're obviously not going to go do that. It is kind of clickbaity. Like, you do get a lot of attention for saying these things, but it starts the conversation, and it gets people talking about, or kind of like sets the bar or raises the bar, but it gets people talking about things that they wouldn't normally talk about, where they might find some sort of solution, but
I'll give people a little scoop too, by the way. This actually started Cleveland Amory, who was the founder of the Fund for Animals. You'll remember them because you're an old timer, but most of the new timers don't know because I don't think they're around. Cleveland Amory was first talking about fencing up the carnivores, separating carnivores. So this does go back to the 70s or 80s whenever he started his stuff. Yeah. It's not new. And if you listen, you sit around enough, you start thinking about injustices, things cross your mind. And it crossed my mind too, especially after I heard Cleveland say it. And I wasn't with him back in the day, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized, why do we hate zebras so much? Why do we hate antelopes? Yeah. That we say guys are food.
It's a little contradictive.
In fact, Dennis Leary, comedian, funny guy, one of his funniest skits was, he said, animals have to come before us and prove their worth. Have you noticed this? So he says, imagine this, who are you? What do you do? And the first animal is, I'm an otter. I roll on my back and I do cute little human things with my hands. And he says, oh, okay, you can go. Who are you? What do you do? I'm a cow. I just sit in the field and eat grass all day. Bullshit, you're a baseball glove. Get on the truck. Now, there's truth in sarcasm. He's right. We designate certain animals to a life of torment and torture for no reason. Cows, your sandwiches, baseball gloves, and shoes. That's all you are. And it's a real tragedy that nobody can see a cow as a cow anymore. They see a milk machine. They see a hamburger. Nobody sees a chicken as a chicken anymore. We've designated chickens to be buckets of wings. But everybody sees a bunny rabbit. Everybody sees a penguin, a sloth. Well, it's easy to see animals that you don't exploit and torture and eat every day as themselves. How about looking at the animals you're tormenting every day and changing your life and reviewing them, seeing them as they are, innocent beings that just want life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
So, a lot of, what would you say to the people who are saying that you are tailoring your vegan beliefs to justify Zionist beliefs?
I'm glad you asked that because I have a new position. I have no position anymore because both sides, the Jews and the Muslims, are acting like petulant children, and they've been acting this way for thousands of years, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of all human beings and their petulant behavior towards each other. Stop it already. I don't care who's right or wrong anymore. And mark this down today. What's today? The 28th, the 29th? I have a new position on it. I want to know who's going to cross the border with their hands out, arms open, shake it out, hug it out, and say, I'm sorry. Can we start over? Because this thing has been going on forever, and nobody ever forgets or forgives what the last group did, and it's bullshit. It's absolute outrageous bullshit. Both sides are full of shit. Stop it already. And again, fighting over a piece of land that doesn't belong to neither of you, belongs to the animals. But I don't see any reason why the Jews and the Muslims and the animals can't live together in peace. But you know what's preventing that? Humans, human selfishness, human supremacy, humans thinking that the whole entire world belongs to them, or each group thinking that it only belongs to my group. Enough already. Build the synagogue next to the mosque, next to the church. Go inside, pray to the invisible person in the sky, and come on out and be a decent person and don't harm anybody else. It's a simple plan that nobody seems to be able to follow because nobody wants to say, I'm sorry or I'm wrong. So my position is both sides, stop it already. Blacks and whites, stop it already. Straight people and gay people, stop it already. Stop harming somebody else and viewing somebody else as weaker and inferior. And to all those humans, leave the animals alone. The least you can do to the animals is not harm them, because I know one thing: cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys have never attacked and harmed human beings ever. Why we have such animosity and hatred towards them is beyond belief, because they've never done anything to us. What's the excuse? We're the victimizers. We're the ones tormenting them, and we think we're better than the victims? It's a horrible mindset. It really is.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
You're getting heavy, deep Gary today. Classic Gary, though. In
we've been
2.0.
We've been turning up the heat on you as we go.
By the way, I always love confrontation better than non-confrontation. you're pulling out all the good stuff. But listen, I like this because I do want to clarify a lot of things. Everybody remember, people grow. Okay, me too. Okay, I was a schmuck all those years for the infighting. This is what has led me to my new positions. I'm tired of arguing. I don't want to fight anymore. In fact,
especially with vegans.
Yes, especially. I think there was a line in Shawshank Redemption, everyone's favorite movie, where Morgan Freeman says, old prisoners don't get rehabilitated. They get tired. I am tired. 29 years vegan. And for anybody who still doesn't understand why I became so irate along the way, come see me after 20 years, 25 years, of veganism. You might feel the same way too, because I was expecting more results over the years. But I'm tired. I don't want to fight. In fact, near the end of 2014, when I was finishing my lecture tour, I knew I couldn't continue anymore. I was getting too upset when those Jerry Springer shows happened. In my mind, when people fought with me, I kept saying, what are we arguing? What are we arguing about? I asked you not to rape, kill somebody else and cut off their heads, and you're screaming at me? What? I literally have brain melt. This is my term. I think what happened, Gary? My brain melted along the way. I can't function anymore. It's hard to live in this world when everybody is so irrational and so illogical, and they just can't extend compassion. It's like some foreign concept to them. How is compassion such a foreign concept? I thought all of our religions teach us, thou shalt not kill, the golden rule. I don't care what religion. Golden rules in every religion. Do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Animals qualify as others.
Yeah, so the infighting, I mean, while I don't like the infighting either, you know, people do need to be corrected. And with the fact that the majority, at least in the United States, the majority of vegans are on one side of the two-party paradigm, which is very much an issue and is very much holding back veganism. The fact that libs are vegans, you know, I'm the rare anarchist vegan who doesn't believe in either side. I feel like,
by the way.
Yeah, I feel like we need to correct these people. But at the same time, we can't burn the fucking bridge, burn the whole house down just because we disagree on things. And I see, you know, like there is a lot of infighting, especially around you.
Correcting people is fine. I want to clarify. When I say no infighting, that doesn't mean letting somebody go down a bad avenue. I'm just going to not attack and vitriol and say you're evil, you're horrible, you should be. No, okay, this is my belief why this tactic doesn't work and why this tactic should be employed. That we just have to do a better job of explaining ourselves without attacking and without canceling, which is what people want to do with me. Why would you want to cancel me because you don't like 1 or 2 or 3 things I said when you like 7 things I said, when you like 80% of what I said, when you love the speeches? You know what's weird too is I've been told that a lot of these people that are attacking me are Gary vegans. You're attacking the person that showed you the way how to be kind to animals because you didn't like something else I said. Do you realize I probably said 1 million words during my activist career? So you don't like 25,000 of those words and you're going to cancel me? But 975,000 words you love, you adore. Like, man, that was some good stuff. Oh, I love the way you explained this. And the circle of life thing, that was classic. The victim's point of view, man, that was brilliant. Yeah, but I don't like these words. Okay, so don't like them. Again, you don't have to like them all, but we don't have to cancel each other out. And I'm going to shock you on this. I always shock people. Do you know that I did 2,660 lectures, 31 states. If I could have lectured in Texas year-round, if I could have lectured in rural North Carolina year-round, I would have done it. They were the best crowds, the conservative Republican crowds. And you know why? Because I walked in the classroom and they said, prove it. Good. I want to prove it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm here. Give me a chance. And they gave me a chance. When I went to the ultra-liberal places, most of my fights happened in California and New York. Because when I stepped in the room, they gave me this line. Oh, come on. I'm already gay rights. I already drive a hybrid. I already recycle. Now I got to care about cows. Yes. Yes, you have to care about cows too. They made it harder for me. The bar was higher in the liberal areas than it was in the conservative areas because the conservatives said, prove it. And then they came up and said, you know what? Man, I came here to laugh at you, man. I'm an ultra right-wing Christian conservative. That's the best speech I ever heard in my life, and I'm going vegan. I went to rural North Carolina all the time. Halifax Community College loved it. Here's something interesting angle. I asked the professors after 6-7 years going there, I'm like, how come they love me so much here? I said, well, man, they can't believe that you would actually come to Halifax Community College in this little town and talk to them. They had their notepads out when I was talking, taking notes. Loved it. In
they
fact,
accepted you in good faith, which is very rare these days. They actually wanted to learn where the media or whatever, the powers that be, have brainwashed so many people into just smash and not listen. They just, anyone who says they fully believe in something, I mean, outside of a couple things, I'm like, I don't know, you know, because it seems those people that believe things are the ones that are least possible. You know, they're not able to move away from those beliefs, where people like, you know, that were raised differently or didn't fall for all the brainwashing. You know, it's like I have lots of debates, and it's very rare that someone comes, you know, a debate is supposed to be a conversation between two people where they look at the facts and come to a conclusion. That happens so little these days because so many people just want to be heard and not listen and just say their opinions. And it doesn't get anything done. Yesterday, a couple days ago, I had a debate with a guy, and it was just like talking to a wall. And it's so weird because I debated this lady who invented the GAPS diet. She basically put bone broth on the map. And it was so wild because the comments, it was one of my bigger videos, and the comments were so all over the place. The lady was the lady knew that I was vegan ahead of time. I was completely willing to have a normal conversation with her, but she showed up and was very rude, talked over me for an hour. I was unbelievably patient to her. Everybody, even carnists, were in the comments going, man, you are so patient. But then other carnists were like, you were so rude to her. She was so not. And like, where is this disconnect of reality these people have to where they're seeing something else? They're in a fantasy land. It's absolutely wild.
Everybody, so this is my problem with the internet. It's done a lot of great, it's spread a lot of good information, but it's made everybody believe that their opinion and their voice matter.
Yeah.
I hate to be the bearer of harsh truth.
Yeah.
But the majority of everyone's opinions and beliefs do not matter. And then everybody thinks they're an expert in everything. I used to have students that would argue at those Jerry Springer show sessions. And I'd say, if you knew everything, why are you a student in this class? Wouldn't you be the professor or the dean? Or why are you even here? Wouldn't you be up where I'm standing explaining an issue to somebody else? Why does everybody think they know everything? It's so weird to me. And I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's mom and dad saying too much that you're special to me. I think during my last year of the speech, I was kind of fed up with humans. And I said, your mommy and daddy lied to you. You're not special. You're special to them. People misunderstand that. You should tell your kids you're special. Don't misconstrue it. That's another Gary said it. No, your kids should be special to you. But don't lie and tell them they're special to the world.
Yeah.
And that's where everyone, to me, has also gone wrong. Oh, mom and dad said I'm special, so my opinion matters, and I know everything, and everyone should listen to me. Sometimes you got to be quiet and listen. And for anyone upset at me up here saying this, I was quiet and I listened to other people. I'm passing on information that I learned from other people, from Krista Rose, from Tom Regan, from Captain Paul Watson, from the people that were before me. I listened to these people. And then, I thought about it a little more and I made my observations. And I included my observations along with their observations and presented this speech. And at the end of the day, I'll even say this. Listen, I gave nothing to this world besides that Georgia Tech speech. That's my gift. It worked. I spent years, literally at that point, it was 2010, 96. I spent 14 years trying to piece together the perfect speech that explained every single issue imaginable, every comeback that was about to be said. I would answer it. And that's my gift. I'll say, okay, everything else, I don't know shit. I'm an idiot. I'm a putz. But that's what I gave to the world. And if that's all I ever give, I'll be happy with that. While I was retired for 10 years, sitting on my couch, smoking a joint, still wasn't straight edge, in my underwear, watching Sports Center or YouTube, I was actually laughing, not just because I was high, but I was laughing going, you know what? I'm sitting here doing nothing, and I think I'm still changing the world. My speech is out there on YouTube right now going viral, and I think I'm converting more people to veganism than people that are still active, and I'm no longer active. And I want everyone to know there were plenty of days, if not every day, that I felt guilty for not being active. Again, it was 18 years at that point when I stopped, and the 14, and it was too much, and I had to step back and take care of myself. And I fixed myself. I'm back in action, and I'm glad to be alive again. And I'm just trying to impart some information, some wealth. I have a lot of information about what works, tactics that are good. And I'll tell you what works the best, the truth. Professors also told me, man, that speech, man, you just lay it on the line and you don't hold anything back. And yeah, they always told me too, we never met a real activist. We only read about activists, but man, you went to jail for the animals and you did all this civil disobedience and all these street demos and all these media interviews and all these lectures. We never met a real activist. This is so cool. And if that's what it took to get into the classroom, to convert all those people, I don't take anything back from the getting arrested and going to jail, civil disobedience. I don't think civil disobedience is a valuable tool these days. I'll be clear again, it's my tactical opinion. I think it used to mean something when we did a sit-in, when we chained ourselves to something, and going to jail meant something. Nowadays, it doesn't mean anything. They don't care. They'll just lock you up. Nobody gives a shit anymore. I don't like the tactic anymore. I don't think street demos, sign-carrying street demos are effective in this day and age. It used to mean something. So, I mean, especially when you go 60s, 70s, maybe the tail end of the 90s, although I was seeing that it was ineffective. That's why I stopped. Doesn't mean anything. I don't think lobbying is a good tactic. I don't think you can change the world through politics. And I don't think, here, if Donald Trump tomorrow banned the consumption of meat, cheese, milk, and eggs, you think anybody would follow? You think it would be enforced? You can't.
People aren't ready yet.
You can't enforce a law that society doesn't understand why the law needs to be on the books or enforced. People always throw this back at me. Oh, Gary, but the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Oh, hold on a second. You mean after hundreds of years of protest?
Yeah.
Violent and non-violent protest? You mean all the legwork that was done to get to that point? Yes. At the end of a movement, we need to enshrine Black people have an equal right in our society to vote. Yeah, at the end, and whenever dozens or hundreds of years, when everybody realizes that murdering a cow is the same thing as murdering a human being, yes, put it on the books. You will be sentenced to life in prison for killing an animal. But you can't do it now. No one's going to enforce it. No one's going to follow it. And no one's going to understand why.
So what the whole utilitarian thing, doesn't it kind of leave open the option for immoral behavior?
It can, but there's no law that says we have to follow the utilitarian method. So I choose the best tactic that liberates the most amount of animals. I don't think one animal should have to die to save 1 million animals. And I don't see why that would even have to happen or how that would happen. To me, that's just theory. Again, we're arguing like, is Gary going to go out and shoot the carnivores? It's just theory stuff. And I don't see it ever happening that way. I see a mass reduction happening when a massive amount of people stop consuming animal products. And then I see those industries dying and changing over to the plant-based stuff. In fact, I'll throw this out there, Jeffrey. The only hope I really have right now of achieving the end of the meat, dairy, and egg industry and all that torture is the cell meat industry. I do. And it's not for the right reasons. I want society to have an ethical awakening. I don't have much faith in that happening. I won't stop preaching and trying to teach people. But when the cell meat industry takes off, when the meat, dairy, and egg industries realize how much money they're going to save by doing it this way, if I can break it down, I mentioned this on a few podcasts. Right now, the meat, dairy, and egg industry, they got to pay a farmer to have a field, got to grow those crops in the field. You got to pay the farmer to get a John Deere tractor, pay for the John Deere tractor, for the gasoline to cut those crops down. You got to bag up that stuff, put it on a truck. You got to buy the truck to put the crops on it. You got to pay a truck driver and pay for the gasoline. You got to transport those crops over to the animals, to the feedlots, and to the factory farms, and to the free range and cage-free farms. You got to pay somebody to go out and feed all these animals. And then when you're done feeding and fattening up all these animals, you got to go pay somebody to go grab those animals and put them on a slaughterhouse truck that you had to pay for. Gasoline on the slaughterhouse truck. You got to pay for the truck driver, transport the animals to the slaughterhouse that you had to build. You got to build the slaughterhouse. You got to pay slaughterhouse workers. You got to hang those animals upside down, cut them up, cut their heads off. And then you got to take their chopped off body, the bodies with the chopped off heads, to a processing plant. You got to cut that stuff into pieces, and then you package it up and send it to the grocery stores and the restaurants. When they realize and stop being so stubborn that there's going to be one big building like a Walmart, you have one side where you're growing meat. And for anybody, the vegans out there, there's a small minority that are opposing this. I'm not attacking you, but listen to this. You're just taking a biopsy from an animal. And I'm not opposed to doing the same things to us that we would do to them. We've all been to the doctor, had to get a biopsy. No one's getting harmed. No one's screaming. No one's crying. Okay, it's a little pinprick. I'll do the first biopsy, by the way. Get the cells. You're just taking cells and you're growing them. You're not growing them with heads, with brains, with central nervous system. It's just flesh growing. So once they realize you grow flesh on this side of the building, take the flesh to this side of the building, cut it up, wrap it up, put it on the truck, and it's out. I can't believe they haven't figured this out yet, because everything they do to animals is because of this. The biggest business on this planet since the beginning of business has been animal slavery. It's not, stop saying it's gasoline. Stop saying it's cars or computers or computer chips. It's animal slavery. It's animal flesh and the things that come out of these animals. So when they finally stop being so stubborn, they're probably going to empty the slaughterhouses that way and empty the feedlots and the factory farms that way. And I'll say this again, it's not for the right reasons, but right now I'll take anything, and I'm sure the cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys will take anything so there's not perpetual torture. And I will say this too. There's a term genocide being tossed about when we talk about human rights issues and massacres going on. No, there are not genocides taking place, whether it's the Jews or the Palestinians. There are Jews and Palestinians all over this planet. You know who's had genocide committed against them? Where's the dodo bird? Where's the western black rhino? The golden toad, the pinta tortoise, and the thousands of other animals that have been wiped off this planet. You can say there's a massacre going on. Be careful with the language that you choose. I've never used the word genocide when I talked about what goes on to animals in the meat, dairy, and egg industry, because we're reproducing them. It's not a genocide, it's a massacre. But humans are so selfish and stubborn that if we don't find a use for these animals, once the cell meat industry starts, we're probably going to kill them all off and commit genocide against them. But I'll say this, extinction is a far better fate than perpetual slavery, perpetual rape, and perpetual baby stealing and perpetual murder. It's sad. I wish I had a better answer. I'm just telling you what this crazy brain thinks of and figures out how things are going to probably go.
Yeah, we watched a video on my podcast once. It was a farmer who started making apple saplings, and he realized, you know, you got all these subsidies that go towards meat and dairy because it's completely economically psychotic to grow animals, to spend all that money to grow an animal just to sell it for half of a fraction of how much money you put into it. This guy realized it's way easier, way less land, way less effort, and way more money just to make apple tree saplings.
Sure.
And it's like, people just think our whole economy is just set up on these farmers, you know, and these farmers are just the greatest Americans, the greatest patriots. And it's like, it's so baffling.
Yeah, there's no reason you have to be an animal killing farmer. You can be a fruit farmer, a vegetable farmer, a grain farmer, using a lot less land. Let's not forget 50% of all the land used on this planet is used for the crops that people want to feed to the cows, pigs, chickens, and turkeys. We can, I think, I used to know the stats better, but it was like 20,000 pounds of potatoes on 1 acre of land when you only get 250 pounds of meat, 40,000 pounds of carrots or tomatoes. You can grow way more stuff. And here's another thing. How about vertical indoor farming, which is going to take over because of issues with the climate? I'm not just talking about all the global warming. I'm talking about, listen, there are freezes that happen out of the blue, have nothing to do. They used to happen all the time when I was growing up, or bad weather, or infestations. When we turn to indoor vertical farming, where we can control infestations, we can control the weather, we'll be able to grow more crops as well using less land. And that's another thing I do want to bring up these days, because we often hear, oh, vegans, what about all the animals killed in the crop deaths? Okay, listen. You guys are responsible for the same amount of stuff too, because the animals you eat ate those crops as well. And don't tell me you never eat fruits and vegetables and grains and all the other things that cropland is being used for. So with everything being equal, I never said vegans were responsible for no animal deaths. Vegans take a step further because we're all responsible for the same amount of crop deaths. We all drive cars. We all live in houses or apartments where animals used to live. I never went out and said, get rid of your car, get rid of your house and your apartment. There are issues with that, but that was never because I wasn't going to be a hypocrite and tell you not to drive a car when I'm driving a car. But I'm going a step further, and vegans go a step further and say, with everything being equal, we also decide not to cause and contribute to the most superfluous amounts of cruelty to the cows, pigs, chicken, turkeys, and fish on this planet that people are tormenting and killing. So this is why veganism is always going to be the best avenue to take. And this is why I will always preach veganism first. It's always about the vegans. It's always about the animals.
So this video cracks me up. This is what kind of got me. I mean, I was a vegan activist before, but this video got me debating farmers and people and stuff. I don't know if you've seen it.
If you really want to kill the most things, be a vegan, because the farmers who protect your beans kill everything. I kill one animal per arrow. In order to grow tofu, you have to kill every ground squirrel, every vole, every shrew, every snake, every turtle, every frog, every bird, every rabbit, anything that gets in that bean field, I'm either going to plow and dismember, which is why the crows and the seagulls follow the combines every year. And then if anything does survive my first slaughter, I'm going to come in with Monsanto and poison the shit out of everything so you can have a tofu salad and not be responsible for any death. Fuck you.
Ted Nugent is the biggest hypocrite on this planet. By the way, most hunters can't stand Nugent anyways. If you go look at his videos, he walks through the woods. He claims he shoots one animal. He goes and shoots anything that moves. There's a squirrel, shoot him. There's a bird, shoot him. He shoots thousands of animals throughout his lifetime, and very few people live like Ted anyways. Are you kidding me? 99.99% of meat eaters on this planet take part in the crop deaths, take part in all the suffering caused from our cars and our trucks and the houses and air conditioning and heat. And there is still, listen, there are trillions of animals being killed by meat, dairy, and egg eaters. Are you kidding me? You count the fish, trillions every year.
If you count the fish.
I don't know how Nugent can make these statements and sleep at night. And by the way, I debated Ted twice. And he pushed out on me on the third debate. We were supposed to debate at Canton High School. And the day before, he called up the superintendent and said, "Are you bringing a terrorist to the school?" Referring to me. And he didn't know, but I had already lectured at Canton High School, and they loved me there. They loved me so much, they would let me send in announcements about my weekend demos, and they would announce the demos over the PA system on Friday. Gary's holding a fur demo at Dietrich Furs from 12 to 4, and Gary's holding a circus demo at the Michigan State Fairgrounds. So the superintendent says, Ted, we actually know Mr. Yourofsky, and he's not a terrorist. He's very well liked here. The following morning, they had to find a student that was a hunter to debate me, and it was an embarrassment, by the way. But I debated Ted on WJR Radio 760, biggest Detroit radio station, and he ran like a pussy because you know what? I can be a bully myself, and I can bully bullies, and that's what Ted is. Ted is just a bully, and he doesn't know how to handle somebody that bullies back. I told him he can go run and get a tissue and call the FBI. He didn't know what to do. Him and the host, David Newman, tried to silence me and attack me and mock me. Didn't work. I absolutely demolished him during that debate. But regardless of that,
is there footage of that anywhere?
No, this is radio. Oh. This is radio stuff back in the 90s. And remember,
oh my God!
Remember, we didn't document everything, but we were growing up. This is something. This is something that happens in this day and age. And I say, listen, you know, I used to be Ted Nugent's biggest fan. This is the irony. I never saw anybody more times in concert than Nugent. I saw him 8 times because every New Year's Eve he did the Whiplash Bash at Cobo Hall. Stevie Ray Vaughan I saw 7 times. Who I listen, I won't take away Ted's guitar capabilities. He's one hell of a guitarist, and he's one shitty human being who just wants to kill and torment everybody and everything in his path. I don't understand how that statement could be made again.
Well,
when
he did a disservice by making that statement because so many idiots repeated it as if they were him, not realizing that he was making that statement because he's a whatever.
But you know what else I have a problem with? I got him during our first debate to say, quote, Gary, the Nugent family hasn't eaten domesticated animals since 1969. I agree with you about the slaughterhouse industry and all that stuff. That's why we just hunt and kill. Now, I challenge that because you can't tell me this man has toured the world. You mean you never ate out at a restaurant since 1969? I find this hard to believe. You can live on the road and only eat an animal that was hunted. But
just like every other meat eater gets all their meat from the Amish and their chickens from their neighbor and their raw milk, you know, it's like they act like they don't go to the store and don't go to restaurants. And
or they act like they're still not responsible for murdering an animal, for objectifying an animal and exploiting an animal. And I don't care if it's 1, 5, 10, 100, 1,000, 10 million, or trillions. It's like saying, oh, well, I only raped 1 child last year, and those child molesters actually rape about 100 a year. You're still committing an evil act. Hunters are still committing the ultimate evil act, and that's viewing animals as less worthy and as fun. Let's go out and shoot somebody for fun and consume their flesh that I don't need to consume in the first place.
Hell yeah.
I never, listen, when I ate meat for 26 years, 25 years, I was one of those people that if you put a bow and an arrow in my arms, you put a knife in my hand, a gun, and said, Gary, why don't you go shove that knife in that cow's throat and cut his head off? I said, you must be crazy. Oh, no way. I was that kid who always screamed at his other friends who were shooting BB guns at the squirrel. I'm like, hey, stop it, leave him alone. I always thought I was an animal lover because I liked looking at the squirrels and the bunny rabbits and the birds. I just didn't realize my lifestyle was causing so much harm. But the people that go out and kill animals and hunt them, that is such a bizarre thing to me. And their main excuse is, well, I kill an animal directly. That's better than the slaughterhouse industry. I got news for you. The more I think about it, you're sicker. You're more psychotic. I understand why people pay somebody else to kill because most people can't do it. The fact that you can kill somebody else and smile about it and then pick up their body and pose for a picture, you could gut them right in the field. You are a sick serial killer. You're a sick psychotic bastard. I don't believe that anymore either. That hunters
if every idiot hunter went out and hunted at once, we wouldn't have anything left. Like it's a broke white trash tradition that has been like held up in our country as some sort of like patriotic duty, but it's ridiculous. And I don't know, man. On that note, thank you so much for coming. That was awesome. I'm glad we got to get through everything. I'm glad we didn't scream at each other because that's not what I'm here for. I've just seen a lot. Yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff talked about you, and I tried to cover what most people asked, but yeah, thanks a lot, man. What you want to shout out everything? Obviously, Sasha Farms.
Shout out to Sasha Farm, Manchester, Michigan, Shara Jones and her animal care team. You're doing wonderful work, please. And even if you don't like me, okay, I'm not getting compensation from Sasha Farm. Please send money to help the animals that you care about. Send it over there. Shout out to Carmen. Shout out to Paul Bashir and Anonymous for the Voiceless. Shout out to all the vegans who are doing something great, Vegan Gains and Joey Carbstrong and Rafaela. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to you, Jeffrey. I really appreciate this show. I actually had a great time doing it. And everybody just keep on telling everybody what's going on to the animals, and we can get to that finish line a lot sooner. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. See you soon.
Peace out.